2 Hooters Horror Stories Animated Story 1, The Regular Part 1. My name is Brianna, and I was 22 years old when this happened. I worked as a server at a Hooters in suburban Atlanta, Georgia. It was a Wednesday evening around 7:30 p.m., and the restaurant was moderately busy with the usual after-work crowd. A man came in and sat in my section. He seemed normal at first. Polite patient ordered wings and a beer like everyone else. But he came back the next day, and the next. For 3 weeks straight, he came in every single night, always requesting my section, always watching me the entire time he ate. Then one night, he handed me something with his tip. A photograph of me getting into my car after my shift ended. Subscribe now and leave a comment below, because that man knew everything about my life. Part 2. Working at Hooters meant dealing with attention. It was part of the job. Most customers were harmless. They came for the food, and the atmosphere made some conversation, left decent tips, and went home. But some customers crossed lines. The man first appeared on a Wednesday evening in early September. Maybe 45 years old, with greying hair and a forgettable face. He ordered a 20-piece wing platter and a domestic beer. Nothing unusual. He sat in my section for about 2 hours. Longer than most customers, but not unheard of. Some people liked to watch the games on the big screens while they ate. What I noticed was that he was not watching the screens. He was watching me. Every time I walked past his table, his eyes followed. When I served other customers, he tracked my movements across the restaurant. When I laughed at something, a co-worker said his expression flickered with something I could not identify. I told myself I was imagining things. Customers looked at servers. It was normal. He paid his bill, left a generous tip, and left. I forgot about him until he came back the next night. Part 3. He requested my section specifically. Can I sit in Brianna's area? She took great care of me last night. The hostess seated him at the same table. He ordered the same meal, sat for the same amount of time, watched me the same way. This continued for 3 weeks. Every single night he was there. Same table if possible, same order, same intense focus on my every movement. My co-workers started to notice. "That guy is obsessed with you," my friend Jasmine said. "He barely touches his food. He just stares." What am I supposed to do? He is not breaking any rules. He pays his bill, tips well, does not cause problems. It is still creepy as hell. She was right. But management said there was nothing they could do unless he actually did something inappropriate. So I smiled, served his wings, and tried to ignore the way his eyes never left me. Part 4. On the 21st night, he handed me the photograph. It was folded inside the leather check holder tucked beneath his cash payment. I pulled out the money and saw the image. Me. Getting into my car in the employee parking lot behind the restaurant. The photo was taken from a distance, probably from across the street, but it clearly showed my face, my uniform, my car, my license plate. My hands started trembling. I looked up. He was watching me with a small smile. "Just wanted you to know how much I appreciate you, Brianna. How did you get this? I have been watching. I know a lot about you now. Where you live, what time you get home, when your roommate works night shifts." He knew about my roommate. He knew my schedule. "I think we have something special. Do you not feel it too?" I backed away from his table. "Stay away from me." His smile faded. That is not very nice, Brianna, after all the time I have invested in us. Part 5. I went straight to my manager. That customer has been stalking me. He just gave me a photograph of me leaving work. He knows where I live. My manager took the photograph and called the police. Officers arrived within 30 minutes. They spoke to the man, who remained calm and cooperative. "It is just a misunderstanding," he told them. "I thought we had a connection. I did not mean to scare her." They could not arrest him. No direct threats had been made. Taking a photograph in a public parking lot was not illegal. But they warned him to stay away from the restaurant and from me. He left without incident. I stayed with a friend that night, too scared to go home, knowing he had been watching my apartment. For a week, he did not appear at the restaurant. Maybe the police warning had worked. Then I found the roses. Part 6. A dozen red roses on the hood of my car when I left my friend's apartment for work. No card, no note, just the flowers. He had found where I was staying. I called the police again. They increased patrols, but said there was still not enough for an arrest. For 3 days, nothing happened. Then, at 2 a.m, I woke up to a sound outside my window. Tapping. Soft, rhythmic tapping on the glass. I looked through a gap in the curtains. He was standing in the yard looking up at my window. He waved. I screamed and called 911. By the time police arrived, he was gone. But they found footprints beneath my window, and a camera hidden in the bushes pointed at my bedroom. He had been recording me. Part 7. They arrested him at his apartment the next morning. His name was Harold Eugene Whitfield, 47 years old. When they searched his home, they found a shrine, photographs of me covering an entire wall, pictures from the restaurant, from the parking lot, from outside my apartment, from the gym where I worked out. Hundreds of images spanning over 2 months. He had been watching me long before he ever walked into Hooters. And there were notes, detailed notes about my schedule, my habits, my friends, my life. Plans for what he called our future together. And items, rope, tape, handcuffs, sedatives. The detective told me he was planning an abduction. He'd been building toward it for months. Harold Whitfield was charged with stalking criminal surveillance and possession of items with intent to commit a crime. He was convicted and sentenced to 20 years in federal prison. Part 8. I quit my job at Hooters after his arrest. I could not work there anymore. Every customer who looked at me too long triggered panic. Every regular who requested my section made my heart race. For months, a man had been stalking me. He knew everything about my life. He had cameras pointed at my bedroom. He had plans to take me. And I had no idea until he handed me that photograph. I work in an office now. No customers learning my name, no uniform that attracts attention, no windows where strangers can watch me. Some people say I am overreacting. They did not see the shrine in his apartment. They did not see the rope and tape. They did not see his face outside my window at 2 a.m. If you work in restaurants where customers can learn your name and face, please be careful. Notice regulars who seem too interested. Trust your instincts when someone's attention feels wrong. Because sometimes the polite customer with the generous tips is not just a regular. Sometimes they are building a file on your entire life, and by the time you realize it, they already know everything about you. Story 2. The Closing Shift, Part Part 1. My name is Jasmine, and I was 23 years old when this happened. I worked at a Hooters in suburban Phoenix, Arizona. It was a Monday night, 11:45 p.m., and the restaurant had closed 15 minutes earlier. I was one of 3 employees finishing the closing routine. My manager had left early, trusting us to lock up. I was cleaning the bar area when I heard the back door open, the door that was supposed to be locked. I froze, listening. Footsteps. Heavy footsteps coming through the kitchen toward the dining room. Subscribe now and leave a comment below, because someone had broken into our restaurant. Part 2. Monday nights were slow. The restaurant closed at 11:30 and the closing crew was minimal. That night, it was just me, my co-worker Aliyah, and Marcus the cook. Our manager had left around 11, saying she had a family emergency. She trusted us to finish closing and lock up. We had done it dozens of times before. Clean the dining room, wipe down the bar prep for the next day, count the register, lock the doors. By 11:45, we were almost done. Aliyah was counting the register in the small office near the kitchen. Marcus was cleaning the grill. I was wiping down the bar, the last task before we could leave. That is when I heard the back door, the heavy metal door that led to the employee parking lot. It had a distinct sound when it opened, a creak followed by a thud. I froze. That door was supposed to be locked. Marcus always locked it after taking out the trash. Part 3. I grabbed my phone and moved toward the kitchen. Marcus, did you open the back door? No response. I pushed through the kitchen doors. Marcus was on the floor, unconscious, blood on his forehead. Standing over him was a man I had never seen, maybe 40, wearing dark clothes and a ski mask. He was holding a metal pipe. "Do not scream," he said. "Where is the safe?" Part 4. I screamed anyway. I turned and ran towards the office where Aliyah was counting the register. Aliyah, someone is in the building. I heard him chasing me, heavy footsteps pounding through the kitchen. I reached the office and slammed the door. There was no lock, just a door that closed. I pushed against it as he tried to force it open. "Aliyah, call 911. She was already dialing, her hands shaking. The door shuddered as he slammed against it. "Open the door, I just want the money." The gap widened. I could see his masked face through the opening. Part 5. Aliyah grabbed a heavy stapler from the desk and threw it at the gap. It hit him in the face. He stumbled backward. I slammed the door closed, and we pushed a filing cabinet in front of it. 911. Someone broke into our restaurant Hooters on Camelback Road. He attacked our cook. He is trying to get into the office. The man pounded on the door. "Open up. This does not have to be difficult." We heard sirens in the distance. He heard them too. The pounding stopped. Through the door, I heard him running. Back through the kitchen. Out the back door. Gone. Part 6. Police arrived within 5 minutes. Marcus was conscious, but needed medical attention. The man had hit him from behind when he was cleaning the grill. They searched the area, but did not find the intruder. However, they found how he got in. The back door had been pried open. The lock was damaged, but the door had looked closed from inside. Marcus had not noticed. Security footage showed the man waiting in the parking lot for almost an hour, watching through windows, waiting until most employees left. He had targeted a night when the manager was gone, when the closing crew was small, when we would be isolated and vulnerable. Part 7. They identified him through fingerprints on the pipe he left behind. His name was Vernon Dale Patterson, 44 years old. He had robbed 3 other restaurants in the Phoenix area over the past year. Always late at night. Always targeting closing crews. In one robbery, an employee had been badly hurt. Vernon Patterson was arrested at his apartment a week later. He was convicted of armed robbery assault and breaking and entering. He is serving 18 years in state prison. Part 8. Marcus recovered fully. The bruise faded, the memory did not. I think about that night constantly. The sound of the back door opening, Marcus lying on the floor, the masked face in the gap of the office door. For almost an hour, a man waited outside our restaurant, watching us through the windows, planning his attack. And we had no idea. If Aaliyah had not thrown that stapler, if the police had taken a minute longer, if the filing cabinet had not held. I do not like to think about what would have happened. I do not work closing shifts alone anymore. I check every door twice before starting closing duties. I make sure someone always knows where I am. If you work closing shifts at restaurants, please be careful. Check every lock. Work in groups. Know where the exits are. Because predators know that closing crews are vulnerable. They watch from parking lots. They wait until managers leave. They target nights when staff is minimal. And they know that those metal doors can be pried open. Stay alert. Stay together. And never assume you are safe just because the restaurant is closed. Because sometimes the danger is waiting right outside. Patient, watching, ready to strike the moment you let your guard down. The end. If these stories scared you, leave a comment below and tell me which one was the most terrifying. And remember, the next time you work at a restaurant, pay attention to your surroundings. Watch for customers who become too interested in your schedule. Check every door before starting closing duties. Never walk to your car alone in dark parking lots. And trust your instincts when something feels wrong. Because predators are everywhere. They sit in your section night after night. They take photographs from across the street. They wait in parking lots until managers leave. They pry open doors you thought were locked. And they are always watching, always planning, always waiting for the moment when you are vulnerable. Stay alert. Stay safe. And never assume that politeness means safety. Because the most dangerous predators often seem perfectly normal. Until they hand you a photograph. Until they appear outside your window. Until they break through the back door. Trust your instincts. They could save your life.